Hi, Toby and I have come today on a very exciting visit to South Wales. We have come to meet Project Seagrass, who is one of our project partners. We're going to be celebrating their 10th anniversary and finding out all about seagrass, why it's important, and the fantastic work that we're helping them fund in North Wales. So we are here with the Project Seagrass nursery team, who are going to tell us quite a bit about what Project Seagrass is, the history behind the initiative, where you work in the UK. This is Emily. Just give us a spiel about how the organisation started and what the aims are, and it'd be great to find out some more.
So I'm Emily, I'm the nursery lead for Project Seagrass. We're an environmental not-for-profit that's been running for 10 years now, which is really exciting, and we are looking to educate and research seagrass and spread the message about seagrass around the UK. So we work in a couple of different sites. So we have field-based sites in Wales, north and south, across Scotland, over in Essex, as well as the Isle of Wight. And then we also have our project, which is the nursery based in West Wales, and we also have the mechanisation project that works across those. And we have some work in the tropics as well, over the Indo-Pacific.
So one of the aims of Project Seagrass is to restore damaged or sort of missing seagrass meadows, isn't it? And how do they go about doing that? And how does the role of the nursery fit into the broader scope of the project?
Yeah, so our teams in the field will pick sites based on a couple of different conditions, looking at the hydrodynamics in the area, whether it's suitable for seagrass, if it's been there before, if there is some there that's struggling and we can help bolster it. So they'll select sites based on that kind of criteria, and then they'll go out and try different planting methods. So we'll use things like the Hessian bags that you'll see, which help protect the seeds against from predation. But then we're also trying some different methods, like directly injecting the seeds into the sediment as well. And we help the projects in a couple of different ways. So first off, we store the seeds. We have our seed storage unit where once the seeds have all been processed at our HQ, they come here and they stay in the seed storage facility until they're ready to be planted out. But then we're also, the goal for the nursery is to produce plants and seeds that will help bolster restoration efforts in the field. So we'll be able to scale up how many seeds we can put out and look into the genetics.
So with the way that the project works at the moment, you harvest seeds from the sites, don't you? You bring them, you were saying about seed storage, so you bring them back here and then you're growing some of the seeds on for the research purposes here. Just to sort of like paraphrase what you were just saying, so the ultimate aim is, obviously by doing that you're taking seeds out of the natural environment, so hopefully in the longer term you'll be able to grow plants here that can produce seeds that can go back into the marine environment. That's sort of how it's going to work, is it?
Yeah. So when we have fieldwork teams that will go out and collect the seeds, we make sure to take a really, really small amount of seeds. It's like 0.001% of seeds that are produced. But if we can produce a load of seeds here and we can help bolster that and increase the number of seeds that are going in the first place, that's the goal.
So we're now here with Carly. Carly, what's your job title and what do you do at Project Seagrass?
So I'm the propagator on the nursery team here with Project Seagrass.
And what does your job, sort of day-to-day job, involve?
So my job is I'm here to take care of the plants themselves. So I'm here to work out the best ways that we can grow seagrass, either from seeds or through cuttings, vegetative propagation like you do with your plants at home. Working out what they like, what they don't like, how far we can push them so that we can have information to either use here at the nursery to grow the plants, and then some of that information can feed into the field work as well.
And what can you tell us about seagrass as a plant and why it's so important that we restore it?
It's fascinating. So seagrass is, there's a lot of different species of seagrass, but they're all one single group, and seagrasses are the only marine plant on the planet. No other real plant grows in saltwater environments like seagrass. And they're just fascinating. They're what we call habitat builders. So like in a forest, you don't have a forest without the trees. The trees create the forest, and that's what seagrass does with seagrass meadows and those habitats that so many creatures rely on. If you don't have the seagrass, then it's just bare ocean and nothing can live there.
And which sort of species are associated with seagrass, and sort of how do they use it? Do they graze on it, or?
There's a multitude of different ways that animals use seagrass habitats. So it's quite often a nursery for young fish and just young sea creatures in general. So it provides this really valuable shelter for them to hide in to escape predators. It's also a food for a lot of species. And then even under the sediment, it's a really important habitat for lots of microorganisms and things like worms and burrowing creatures. So yeah.
So it's a real sort of staple of the marine environment, and really important to a lot of different creatures. And Emily was saying we've lost an awful lot of our seagrass, especially in the UK. So presumably that has a knock-on effect onto all the animals that rely on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it has a knock-on effect further up. So seagrass doesn't just produce benefits for the stuff living directly in it, but it also does things like it prevents coastal erosion, and it slows the power of waves coming in. So it even protects habitats and things growing further up the coast.
Okay, so if with the project that we're working on in North Wales, presumably if we're restoring seagrass meadows, we're improving biodiversity. That has been shown to have a beneficial effect for productivity as well. So local fisheries can actually benefit from increased biodiversity. And
Yeah, seagrass is absolutely fundamental. It can have massive benefits for local communities. So, like you mentioned, it can, because it shelters those juvenile fish, it provides, it really enhances fish stocks for local fishermen. But it also can be a draw for tourists to increase tourism in an area. It can increase local people's engagement with nature. So a lot of young children really love learning about seagrass, and that's a way for them to engage with the natural world, which is shown to really boost people's wellness and mental health. So it has all of these really complex interwoven benefits that don't get mentioned as much, but are just as important.
So this is the seed storage unit, is it? Can you explain to us what happens in here? We can see there's like different boxes for North Wales seeds, Isle of Wight seeds. So yeah, explain to us what's been happening here.
Yeah, so once the seeds have matured and been processed at our HQ, brand new processing facility units, whatever you want to call them, the seeds are brought here, which is where we store them until they're ready to be planted out. So that could be back in the field, or it could be here at the nursery, or it could be taken to have some experiments done on it, whatever we need them for. So we can see we've got the two different boxes, the two different systems from the Isle of Wight and from North Wales, so completely separate for biosecurity reasons. And in the future, maybe we'll be able to store different species or different locations and keep them more separate. And it's just a really nice, simple system that we can pump the water around. It's recirculating, it's chilled, it's kept at a really high salinity so that we don't trigger any germination. And this is where they stay until they're ready to go wherever they're going to go.
Perfect. So in terms of, I think you said earlier, this is a refrigerated unit, isn't it? And you've been experimenting with chilling the air and seeing if that sort of kept the seeds nice. Did that work, or?
It didn't quite work. So one of the things about the nursery is that we're still learning, and with the Global Seagrass Nursery Network, we use that to share information and learn from each other from nurseries around the world, which is really, really cool. And yeah, we can say, chilling the air, definitely not the way forward. So for this next season of collecting seeds, we'll move into a larger container to hold the amount of seeds that we want to collect.
Yeah.
And we'll look at chilling the water directly instead of the air.
And is there seed storage at the head office as well, at the warehouse?
No, that will be here. So we'll store the seeds.
The only seed storage. Oh, I didn't realise that.
Yes, yeah.
And is it just the one species? I can see on there it says Zostramina. Do you just work with that one species at the moment?
For now, yes. Yeah. Hopefully we'll be able to work with Noltii in the future. But at the moment it has just been Zostramina.
Yeah.
Slightly easier to pick the seeds. The Noltii is really, really tiny. Our seeds are small, but theirs are even smaller.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe we'll be able to grow them in the future as well.
So we're now in the polytunnel. We're going to look at some of the experimental ponds. Could you talk us through some of these, what's happening in some of these pots, what the sort of work you do in here is? It looks great, lots of little plants.
Thank you. Yeah, so the goal for the nursery is to work out if we can grow seagrass in a nursery setting. So we're hopefully going to produce plants and eventually seeds that we can use to help restore seagrass populations around the UK in the future. But the first step is, can we grow them here, which we can. So these are some of our plants from this year, from some of our experiments.
Oh, wow.
So you can see these were planted a couple of months ago. Nice healthy plants, they've got a couple of leaves on them. And we're playing around with different planting times of the year, different sediments, different planting densities. You can have a feel if you like.
Oh, they're tiny.
They're really sweet. So the nice thing about the nursery is that we can run experiments here that not only helps us to answer our big questions, but we can also compare to the field as well, and it can feed back into that science.
Yeah.
So we can look at planting into the Hessian bags that we plant into, and we can look at what to put into those.
And this is one of the Hessian bags, isn't it? So these are the ones you use to actually plant out in the into the sea when you're doing it.
Yeah. So these help to protect the seeds from predators, because apparently seagrass seeds are the tastiest things that they can get their hands on, claws on. And we also have to think that hopefully we'll move into some of the larger ponds that we have on the site. So how does what we do in here translate to growing out there? Do we grow them up in small pots and plant them out, or do we start them off in little Hessian bags and plant them out, or plant them straight out there directly?
Yeah,
it's one of those big questions that we need to look into.
And so those trays earlier, you said earlier, those trays over there, they've got some of the sort of decomposed Hessian bags in that you were looking at.
They do, yeah. They're covered in algae, and they've got they probably have some plants in there somewhere. So we've been breaking up that experiment. It's just coming to an end now.
Yeah.
And we've been cutting the bags open and having a look at what the seeds have been doing. Have they germinated in the bags? Have they turned to mush? Are they still dormant in there and nothing's triggered their dormancy? We can dig into them and answer some questions that might be quite difficult to answer in the field. Going about the beaches and trying to find the bags again can be a little difficult at 4 a.m. or whenever the low tide is. So being able to do that here at the nursery is a huge benefit.
So essentially you've got controlled conditions here that can inform the work you do out in the field. It can inform seagrass research generally. It's a really great opportunity to do everything in a sort of very managed setting and control for different aspects. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. And it's a great place to be able to show people as well.
Yes,
so you guys coming down, we can show you what seagrass looks like, what it looks like at different ages, what we do in the field without having to take you to a remote beach somewhere in North Wales or Orkney or wherever it is that we might be working or restoring. Yeah, so these are some of our oldest plants. These were planted last year in the spring, so just gone past their first birthday, and they've been through a couple of different trials. So they've started out looking at germination triggering as well as sediment type, and then we've moved them into larger boxes, split them up, look at how they've grown in different sediments from what they started off in. So looking at different combinations, maybe we start them in one sediment and move them into something different.
Yeah.
And it's also given us an idea of densities as well. So we started out with 11 plants per box back in November, and now in some of them we have nearly 150 plants. So some very happy plants.
So how are they spreading? Is this because over in those ones over there you can see, I think you said it's rhizomes sort of like creeping across. Is that how they're spreading in there?
Yeah, so you can see in some of the boxes that the rhizomes are really close to the surface.
And it's essentially a stem adaptation, and they'll put off offshoots and reproduce like this. So you'll get some meadows in the wild that are just one plant that's reproduced rhizomally continuously, which is really, really cool. So most of these boxes might just be an individual that's taken over, or it could be a few which have put out lots of offshoots, which is really cool to see. So once you get them out of the water, you can really see how gorgeous and lush they are.
Yeah.
The best way to kind of describe them.
They're thicker. The stalks are sort of like feel thicker than I thought they would. They sort of look quite delicate when they're in the water. But
They do. They're almost like ribbons.
Yeah.
Is what I describe the leaves as.
Yeah, that's a really good description.
So you've got the really, really thick sheath down here.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where all of the leaves come through. And sometimes on a really sunny day, you can actually see the new leaves forming, and before it's just come out.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you start to split them up, they're really quite thick and healthy and long. So it's one of those metrics that we measure where we'll come in and see how long the leaves are. For example, if you compare these two, that's very thin compared to this thick one here. So it could be a newer shoot. Yeah. It could be a different plant.
And what did you say the sediment in this? Would you know what the sediment in this particular box is?
So
is it a
this
mix
particular box is. This started off in the natural sediment from the donor meadow and was moved into Kettering loam, which was the best artificial sediment that we found. We think it's really nice clay heavy sediment, really good for trapping nutrients. But we also think the microbiome has a role to play in that as well for starting off. So that's something that we're looking into more, and we're going to look at doing some more experiments and studies into that. But you can see really nicely here this little rhizome which has hit the side and it's just taken a detour, and a really nice little example of a shoot just here.
Oh yeah,
that's come off that stem. Wow, got a new one.
So these are one of your sort of most successful patches in terms of sort of experimental growing.
Yeah, there seems to be a good combination here. Some nice happy plants, we like to call them. So we'll keep planting similar to this next year and see if we can replicate it. It could be an age thing, that just once they get to this year, this is what they look like, and we'll see that in some of the combinations that we already have that are slightly different to this one. Lots of learning, lots of testing and trialling and seeing what the best methods are.
Yeah, fantastic. And all these plants in all these boxes are the same age. They're just different experimental treatments for sediments and sort of subsequent treatments.
Yeah, they are. So in theory, those plants have the same potential as these ones, just in the right conditions.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that's something we'll look at. We'll move those ones into something like this, and then see what it does.
And so it's salt water in the tank. You keep there's a current. We saw it just now start up. There's a current that flows through it. You said it's sterilised, isn't it, the water?
Yeah, so we have natural salt water which comes from our lagoon, which is pumped from our local beach regularly. And then it goes through some sterilisation with UV sterilisers, UV bulbs. And then it goes through mechanical filtration, and it's also chilled as well. Yeah.
And you said these plants were originally grown from seed from Wales, was it?
They were, Wales. So seeds picked in 2021, planted in 2022, and this is where they are in 2023.
Fantastic. And we were talking earlier, how do you prevent them from germinating? Because you don't want these to germinate at the moment and produce seeds, do you?
Yeah, well, so for the time being, when we collect the seeds and they've been processed from the wild, all that plant material that they're in the seed spade, that's all broken down. The pod essentially is broken down, and we've got the mature seeds. We keep them in a really high salinity at really low temperatures to keep the seeds dormant for as long as possible. So we keep them dormant at the moment from kind of August time, once they've been processed, August, September. And then we'll plant them out in kind of springtime. So we keep them at really high salinity at 50 ppt, and we keep them at a really low temperature, so keeping them in there. And then as soon as spring comes, we pop them out, and that change in, we think, temperature, potentially light, another thing to look into, triggers that germination, and that's when they start to pop up.
So Project Seagrass doesn't just work in the UK, do they? They're involved with sort of global initiatives, and I remember seeing there's a seagrass spotting app, isn't there? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so we helped to develop Seagrass Spotter, which is, like I said, an app which kind of harnesses the power of citizen science. So part of the problem with seagrass is that we don't necessarily know where it is or how it behaves at different times of the year. So anybody can just download this app and take a picture when they see seagrass, or when there used to be seagrass somewhere but there isn't anymore, so it's got absent data. and we can get an idea of where meadows are, how healthy they are, how they're changing over time as well. So for example, I was on holiday last week and I took it with me, and I just had a little sighting in then, which was really cool. It was the first one on the little island that I went to. So anybody can be involved in the science.
So the funding that the Creating Tomorrow's Forest team and partners provide goes to the North Wales site, doesn't it? Could you tell us a bit about that and what the specific issues are there, how the sort of the funding translates into seagrass being restored?
Yeah, so the North Wales project is really exciting. They're hoping to restore 10 hectares across North Wales by 2026. So our teams are going out there, surveying different sites that we can potentially plant at, but also planting those. So early on in the year, some of our team went out and started to put some of those seeds in the bags and out into the field, and hopefully we'll have some really lush meadows out there. So that's what your funding can help support.
We've had a fantastic day here at Project Seagrass Nursery. To find out more about the work that we're doing with Project Seagrass, please visit our website and look at the project pages to find out how you can help fund this amazing work. And please like, subscribe and share this video.